Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, checking in with a late February container garden tour here from my Zone 7 Central North Carolina garden. We've had exceptionally warm weather and only one cold snap in which I actually covered all of my pots. So everything is looking really great, and hopefully you'll be inspired by seeing all that I have growing here. So let's go on a tour. Well, right here out front, you can see the mixed containers, the grain pots with violas, this herb pot with peonies, this matching one that actually still has a cauliflower growing in it. All of these are looking great. I'm really pleased. I do keep them well watered because this orientation, they rarely get rained on. This pot over here has suffered a little bit more from some cold, but overall is doing great. You can see the snapdragon is totally bouncing back from the holiday freeze. Of course, the violas are so responsive. And this is my all-time favorite strawberry. This is one from Bushel and Berry called Snowy Belle. And I had to trim it back a bit after the holiday freeze, but I mean, look at that. There's actually tiny baby strawberries still growing on this plant. And this is just a really remarkable one. So if you can find it, buy it. Over to this window box, you can see the poppies are growing really well. Obviously they're super dense, but I am not going to do any thinning. This is a great experiment. Again, I've never grown poppies in a window box before, but we figured we had nothing to lose after so many poppies died in the holiday freeze. We went ahead and scattered seed, and well, you can see they are definitely responding. Now here's a pot that I don't often show or talk about because, well, it's sort of a disaster in that the pot is breaking. There is a giant hackberry, a weeping hackberry planted in it, and I haven't figured out exactly what to do with this. But I did want to show you that Ophiopogon and tulips are doing quite well. These tulips rarely bloom, and actually I'm looking here and you can see they've been nibbled back, and so I'm guessing the deer, absolutely it is deer because look, there's a hoof print. The deer are coming into this bed and actually eating the tulips out of this pot. So there you have it. Out here on the back patio, I've got a mix of tender things like this ginger and this lime that have been going in and out of the shed. Right now it's super mild, they don't need to be in. But then plants that have been outside all winter, I did cover when it got cold. They see this triticum, snapdragon, viola combo, really looking beautiful. Same thing here with this combo of kale and Swiss chard and snapdragons. I mean, I really can't believe I've got snapdragons in bloom in February, but I do. And then these pots of lettuce and kale, those look really good. I need to actually harvest some of that for tonight. And the succulent table, which right now is predominantly the beautiful red romaine lettuce with mixed violas. This has looked so wonderful all winter long. Every time I come out here, this just brings me so much happiness. Now you can see the tower garden. We were a little heavy-handed in some of the places where we sowed more seeds than necessary. I'm gonna leave them. The cilantro that I sowed was basically a failure, so I've got new, I don't remember, I think I may have done kohlrabi every other, and these are all broccoli. So glad to see these are growing. I need to add some nutrient solution to make sure that these plants are actually getting the fertilizers that they need. Here's a little collection of some tender plants, including this bad hair day agave that's been inside. It's just that it's nice and mild right now, and I know the plants just appreciate getting real fresh air and real sunshine when the sun does shine. So I have them outside for now. Into the fire pit area where I have a ton of containers. You can see these grains. These are wheat. And I think this is the result of cold damage, or it might actually be a result of being dry. I haven't been watering out here at all, and you can see these are really dense. I'm sure they are, you know, fully rooted. And yeah, that soil isn't really all that, it's not dry, but it's certainly not wet. So these probably benefit from actually getting some water. I've been so curious to see how this pot would do. The fava beans have definitely gone through some dramatic cold spells, and they don't look great in this pot, but they aren't dead. And these are dianthus that I grew from seed, and they weren't hit at all by the cold. They weren't phased in any capacity. And over there you can see some mixed foodscape containers with blueberries and broccoli and violas and some cabbage. All of these are doing really well. And over here we've got a hybrid mustard, really nice frilly foliage. And these pots that have grains and violas I just think they're so beautiful. First of all, I think this is the most beautiful viola of all time. I love the coloration on that. I don't remember the name of it anymore. And you can see they look just as good on this side as well. So really pleased with all of these container combinations. And though I don't love roses, I've got to say it's pretty impressive how this rose has just completely leafed out, and it's actively growing in February here in North Carolina. Not a lot to report on this side of the greenhouse, though you can see the raspberries are starting to break dormancy, and they're starting to put out some foliage. And in here I have some potatoes planted, so I'm going to be planting more this afternoon. These have been damaged somewhat by the cold, but they're growing out of it. And as these continue to grow, I will continue to fill this bag with more soil. And that will basically ensure tuber production all the way up to the top. This is just a pretty cool container in that it's got this clear plastic. So as the tubers develop, at least in theory, you can actually see them grow. Well, the cool season heading vegetables that I sowed 2 weeks ago are all germinating. And of course, all of the native ornamental grasses that we are going to be planting and selling at the Spring Open Garden are doing really well. And on this side of the greenhouse, you can see this is actually a dianthus that I've had for several years, and it's just so reliable. It's really unbelievable how easy and how hardy dianthus are. And in this root pouch, you see a good combination of poppies and garlic. Same thing over here. There, of course, is another like Sweet William dianthus that I've had for a really long time. I need to go ahead and just plant it in the ground. It just is so, it's so remarkable. I've not covered this. I haven't done anything special to it all winter. And there it is, filling the entire container and blooming right now. Well, the pots over here at the Carolina Garden House are looking beautiful. Of course, this wheat, again, it's just so, I love it so much. Anybody's gotta love green in the middle of winter. I actually harvested broccoli here, but you can see it's a sprouting form, so hopefully I'll get more harvests. The cabbages are really small and not looking like they're actually going to form a head, which isn't totally uncommon here in North Carolina. Our fluctuating temperatures don't always make for good cabbage crops, but we'll see. I definitely think that the hydrangeas that I've been trialing for endless summer are looking like they've survived without any trouble. You can see The leaves are starting to bud out along the stem. So these did not die to the ground, uncovered with 11 degrees. And the petite knockout rose is also starting to flush back out. And I just wanted to share my floating flower arrangements for today because so much is in bloom. Some of my favorite camellias include Little Babe and Jax, October Affair, Irrational Exuberance, Freedom Bell, I forget the name, Stellar Sunrise, Igawa 3 Seasons, and Happy Higo. And in this floating flower arrangement, it's all October Affair camellias mixed with various hellebores. So container update here at Dennis's bench. You can see this kale has grown so much. It's definitely time to be harvesting this. And in here, the lettuce survived the holiday freeze. The poppies were sown after the holiday freeze, but they are growing. Everything's actually remarkably dry, which is crazy because we've gotten so much rain. And then the pots behind here where I just threw poppy seeds. I didn't clear the leaves out or anything. You can see the poppies have germinated where there's open space all the way down the line. And a few people have asked about some of the bushel and berry, the blackberry that I got about 3 years ago. Here it is in this pot. You can see it's totally filling the container. I'm afraid of planting blackberries in the ground because they just spread too rapidly, but it's doing wonderfully. And the raspberry from Bushel and Berry is here. And this one isn't leafing out yet, but I'm sure it will soon. And then this pot here in the middle has a hydrangea paniculata and mint in the base, which is why it won't be planted in the ground. Now over here, these pots of poppies, you can see these are slowly growing, but it's, again, it's pretty dry. I probably need to go ahead and pull the hose out. And these ones are actually what survived the holiday freeze. And you can really see the Reese poppy looks very different, and this is the California poppy. But you notice how loose the soil looks? That's because ants have, fire ants specifically, have made a home in this pot, and I need to treat it with Amdro to get rid of those fire ants. And an update on these soil cube bags that we seeded directly into. You can see the breadseed poppies are doing fantastic. As you see, obviously the self-sown ones are much larger than the ones that Abby and I seeded, but everything is doing really well. I mean, these are super full. It's gonna be so much fun to see these bloom. And then the grains and poppies together, you know, my theory about the wheat wave or the grain wave out front, that the grains exude something that makes the poppies not grow, is obviously not accurate because they are growing perfectly fine together in all of these bags. I mean, the poppies are probably obviously getting shaded out, but they aren't dead. So that's a really interesting, it's an interesting experiment. You see the poppies are really small because the grains are definitely growing faster than they are, but I can't wait to see how these end up turning out. And this window box on the south side of the house looks absolutely amazing. I have been watering it a lot, but you can see the wheat is growing really well. And of course, these violas are just so beautiful. And it's really funny because the cats love to nibble from this window box. And here in the driveway bed, you can see the viola side of the live wall is looking beautiful. I don't have it hooked up to irrigation, though I totally could since we have no freezing temperatures in the forecast. I've just been hand watering it. this pot of rye is growing like gangbusters, and actually started to notice that, yes, look, it's actually starting to produce flowers, which is like 3 months earlier than it should be. But again, what is should be, right? I mean, what does that even mean in an era where climate doesn't make any sense? Now the grain side of the wall is also looking good. You can see where the cold damage, has left some dead material, but everything is grown out. And remember, each row is a different species. So rye is at the bottom, and I need to check the labels, but it's like oats and wheat and barley. See some more floating flower arrangements here. The camellias are just in full bloom, as are the hellebores. They are so pretty. And these pots here, I just went ahead and harvested the main head of broccoli in this pot, but it's also, you can see, putting out tiny side shoots. So hopefully there will be more to harvest there. And this pot is looking quite beautiful as well. I always say the key to success to container gardening is convenience. And put your containers in a spot where you have easy access to a hose, near an entrance that you come in and out of on a regular basis, and you're bound to take better care of the pots. And well, the more you put in, the better they look. And that's certainly the scenario that I've been experiencing here. I try to concentrate all of my pots in specific areas that have easy access to water that I walk by on a regular basis, and that way I really enjoy looking at them. I notice when they're growing, I notice when they're dry, and ultimately I notice when there's something to be harvested. Well, I hope that you'll be inspired by this February container tour here from my Zone 7 Central North Carolina garden, and I look forward to sharing more updates, so be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.